I'm going to cut out the music. There we go.
Calling this meeting to order. Have we taken attendance? Yes, we have. All right. Next, I think we need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, the agenda has been approved.
For discussion.
Open for discussion. All right, moving on. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Wait, do we have to vote on the agenda first?
Say that again.
Do we have to vote on the agenda, like we've moved?
All right,
No.
sorry.
No problem.
So is it roll call or?
No.
Okay, let's vote to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. Now moving on. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, and vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Do we have any citizens' comments?
And we have not received any online either.
All right. Moving on to the financial reports. Eli.
Okay, financial report begins on page 25 of your packet. That's the page labeled 25. Just to touch on it really quickly, the cash decreased $1.2 million from $9.3 million in February 28th down to $8.1 million on March 31st. This is the time of year when we are spending down, so that's to be expected. As of March 31st, we've received 100.2% of our budgeted tax receipts. So the budgeted was 17.8 million. We've received 17.9 million. So we're on track to probably come close to just under 101%. This is the time of year when we're also trying to budget that for next year. So part of this is it's very hard to know precisely what the captures are going to bring in and not bring in. So that's the hardest part to sort of get precisely accurate. For our fund balance, the fund balance increased to 5.5 million, from 5.5 million to 5.6 million as of March 31st. Just to touch on the 9-month summary, revenue. So our year-to-date revenues equal 13.5 million, of which 202,000 is due from other governmental units. That's penal fines and state aid. We have 4.5 million of property taxes have been deferred and will be recognized as we earn it. And as we said, we have received $18.2 million in tax receipts so far this year. Our expenditures total $12.1 million, with $535,000 of that prepaid. That's mostly subscriptions and things like that, where it pays for some of the service in advance. That's the $550,000 is the prepaid. Total cash expended is $12.5 million. And then that puts us so far for this year at $1.4 million under the budget for expenses. So we are at 74% of the approved budget, and our current expenses are actually 66% of the approved budget after 9 months. So we're in good shape to probably finish the year with around $1 million of surplus going into the fund balance or into capital fund, however you decide. I expect that to come down a little bit because there are a number of large year-end purchases that will be coming. All right, then we'll skip the governmental funds page to look at the revenues and statement of revenues and expenditures. Just a few things to point out here. Under interest income, you can see that those continue to be negative. It's because bonds do very poorly. We are mostly invested in bonds. Bonds do very poorly in time of high inflation. So we're in a situation now where you can see our budget remaining. That makes the numbers look all weird. We're negative 638% of our interest revenue expected, which basically means we have not received any interest revenue because the bond loss have offset that. However, the total budgeted amount for the entire fiscal year is only 25,000 was what we expected to receive. So it's not a major impact on the budget that we will not be receiving any interest income this year. One thing I wanted to draw your attention to under property insurance, it does say a credit of $13,243. That is correct. This was a dividend paid on our property insurance that we received. this year. It is correct that there were no grant and memorial expenses. You can see that that's blank. And as we saw, you can see that we are, if you look at the revenue over under expenditures, $1.4 million under budget so far for this year. And those are the highlights of the financial report. Any questions about that? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Eli. Moving on to committee reports. The executive committee, we met last Tuesday. Primarily, we talked about the Friends Space Agreement that we'll be discussing in the meeting tonight. And is there anything else, Corinne, that we should talk about from that meeting?
No, we worked on Eli's contract. Did you already mention that?
I did not.
Okay.
Yeah, we worked on Eli's contract. And that's it. And moving on to the Budget and Finance Committee, Scott.
Yep, so at the last Budget and Finance Committee meeting, we primarily spent our time reviewing the draft budget. I think it was a educational experience for all of us, seeing the budget kind of before it was finalized. And so I don't think we quite know yet what the tax, Richard, I forget the proper
Equalization.
The equalization, right? So we'll know how much the millage is going to be and how much then revenue to anticipate. So we have a guess for that in the budget, and we will all be seeing that at our next meeting.
And it looks like we'll talk a little bit about that today.
Was that on the budget for today?
Yeah.
Yep.
Proposed budget, yep.
Great.
Any questions, discussion? All right, moving on to the director's report. Back to you.
Okay. All right, so here's your library report. We're going to start off with a statistic. Our first slide we're going to compare here. You can go on to the next slide there, guys. Door count comparison comparing 2019 to 2022. We're going to look at the first 3 months of each year to kind of get a sense of where our door count is relative to where it would, quote unquote, normally be, looking back to 2019. So the first thing to look at, if you go ahead and bring up the first slide. So this is January 2019. This was a very normal month, although January is typically a little bit slow because of the weather. But you can see downtown slightly outpaced Westgate, but each of them had over 45,000 people through the door that month in January alone. You can see Mallets and Traverwood very kind of similar to each other, a little less than a third of what the big branches bring in. And then Pittsfield a little bit below that at 13,000. Go ahead and advance the next one. So here's January of 2022. So this is apples to apples. This is the same month of the year. We were open the same number of days. We didn't have any closures in that time. You can see that at Westgate, we have just about exactly half of what we would have had in 2019. Downtown is less than that, about 2/5. So a little smaller fraction there. Mallet's a little bit more than half of what we saw in 2019. Traverwood, a little bit more than half as well. And Pittsfield also a little bit more than half. So across the board, in January of 2022, we saw about half of our normal door count compared to 2019. Go ahead to the next one. So now if we look at February 2019, February, always the weather's a little bit worse. It's also a slightly shorter month. Numbers go down a little bit. And you go ahead and advance the next one. And you can see here when we look at February 2022, they didn't fall as much as they did in February 2019, which means they're starting to make up some ground. You can also see there, Westgate is fully half of what it was in February 2019. Downtown is also half, so that's a little bit better percentage. And again, Mallets, Traverwood, and Pittsfield all doing a little bit more than half of what we normally would have expected in 2019. Go ahead to the next one. So now if we look at March 2019, the weather starts to improve, events start to happen, things start to really take off. And then if we go ahead and advance the last one there. So here's March of 2022. What's good here is that we're up to 3/5 of our normal attendance at Westgate. Downtown is well over half. And also same with Mallets, Traverwood, and Pittsfield. So these represent, we're a little bit busier in March than we were in February. And it is a higher percentage of the pre-pandemic numbers than it was before. So we're continuing to see some improvement there. It's clearly going to be a long time until these numbers are, until we have 50,000 people a month at Westgate again. But still, 30,000 people a month at Westgate is still probably the busiest single place at Westgate Mall, with the exception of Kroger. So it's important to keep that in mind, that these are still busy places, and anyone who works at Westgate will tell you it is still plenty busy out there. It's hard for us to imagine another 20,000 people a month coming through there at this point. But just to put that all in perspective, so we're doing pretty well. Things are continuing to improve, and we're continuing to get each month a slightly larger fraction of what that month would have expected pre-pandemic. Any questions about that slide?
Would part of this be interpreted as being due to like less programming or?
Certainly, like less programming certainly has something to do with it. There would have been a lot of events at all of those locations. We know that those bring in a lot of people. However, we're also just seeing a smaller set of patrons using the library even still. We still hear from people who are not coming into the building at all. We still hear from people who are like, well, I'll come back when this is all over, whenever that is, right? So we're certainly serving a smaller set of people than we were in 2019. But in many cases, as we saw from our circulation numbers, those people who are using the library are using it more intensely, and that our numbers tend to be, our circulation, which we'll look at next month, is a better percentage than the door count has been. So these people are typically using the library more.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions about this? All right, so moving on here. So this is, the next slide is from our, this is from our partner, Home of New Vision. This was on their Instagram, and they posted this when the Naloxone vending machine was put out. They just installed it. You can see there, it's the first of 4 machines that they're placing in the county. We're not sure where the other 3 are. But they've just started doing that. When I posted about this on my Twitter, it went extremely big. We had over 200,000 impressions, like 360 retweets. It was being seen all over the world, and it was very interesting what some of those reactions were. There were some people posting from countries where they have different sets of approved drugs, and they were basically saying, this is why we should, this is what happens if you don't have this one drug available, because in the US we use opiates instead as a painkiller. And so it's very interesting seeing the way that this was used. There were some people who were saying this is the perfect example of a Tunisian political party, was what someone was saying. So I wasn't quite sure how we fit into the local politics there at that moment, but it was very interesting to see how far it went around the world. We really only got one piece of negative feedback from a local patron, which I was very pleased to see. I would have expected some more sort of knee-jerk to this, but in this case it was very positive, particularly once it broke out into the social work audiences and the harm reduction sort of Twitter sphere. And it was just recently been rediscovered by someone at the School of Pharmacy who is starting to share that again. So that's continuing to go very well. And the machine has been restocked several times. It has not been an issue at all so far. We had heard from our partner that the machine had already dispensed naloxone that had saved a life. So that has already happened according to our partner. So that has all been going very well and has not been any sort of challenge management-wise at the library. Okay, if you go on to the next slide, this is something that we're very excited about. AFC Ann Arbor, which is the soccer team, is holding a community Iftar, and they approached us to ask if we wanted to come participate and table at that event. It's worth mentioning this is not our event. The library does not produce events of religious observance. However, when organizations in the community are inviting us to come reach the audience that's attending their event, when it's a free event that is outdoors and open to the public, it's a great opportunity for us to reach a lot of people who may not have the library on our radar. So we're bringing our table with tools and our button maker and all kinds of fun stuff, and it will just be a great event there. That's at the Southeast Area Park on Ellsworth, and that is this Saturday from 7 to 10 p.m., just right around sunset. All right, moving on to the next slide. Festivals and Full Moon were a big success. Everybody was very hungry for these events to come back. We had great turnout. The new location on State Street for festivals was outstanding. It was so much more comfortable. There was a lot more room for kids to run around. The people who insisted on bringing their dogs had a much less traumatic experience. So it was a very excellent day for everyone involved. The weather was great. You can see our flamingos that the staff had made in conjunction with our resident artist, Lavinia, who Lavinia had been involved with festivals from the beginning and is really sort of, in many ways, the artistic heart of many of the puppets that have been made over the years. And so Lavinia worked with us and was able to make those amazing flamingos. So That was a very successful event. It was a birth of a new level of partnership between us and Wonderful Productions, and looking forward to next steps with that. Moving on to the next slide. So seed sampler update. You know, sometimes you never know for sure if a product or service is going to be well received. We had a feeling about this one, but it has definitely exceeded our wildest dreams in terms of how well the uptake has been in the community. You combine gardening and free stuff and library in Ann Arbor, and you got a winner. So we have received 1,426 orders for seeds from the seed sampler. We've filled 854 of them so far. We've reordered seeds twice from the Ann Arbor Seed Company. And really the major issue at this point is the local vendors' ability to meet the demand. One of the things that's very unique about the service is the very small number of seeds that you get, which is actually great for beginning gardeners. Many cases when you order these online, you'll get a huge pile of seeds. So we've been able to really sort of stretch the supplies. The marketing team did a great job with all the graphics and the stickers and the envelopes and all those kinds of things. And everybody involved has a lot of ideas on how to streamline this for next year. This is going to be ending soon because it is very much a seasonal project. They're considering doing one in the fall for fall plantings. But this will definitely be back next year. And once again, this is like our take on a seed library. There are some libraries that basically have like a card catalog full of seed envelopes, and then they ask you to bring back your seeds at the end of the year, which is a lovely idea, except you have no guarantee that those are going to be what you think they are. So instead, we're working only with professional seed distributors and making sure that the seed that's in the envelope is exactly what you're expecting. What's that old song, plant a radish, get a radish? Is that from the Fantastics, I think? Plant a radish, yes. All right, so excellent work by everyone who worked on the seed sampler. It's been a lot of work for staff. We're just starting to get volunteers involved with filling these envelopes, but there's been a lot of excellent effort from everyone involved who designed and developed and has been filling all of these orders. All right, moving on to the next slide. Our Preschool Expo is back. That's coming up Sunday, May 15th at 1 p.m. We polled all the preschools when we started to plan this event and asked them if we had done this virtually once. We asked them if they wanted a virtual one or an in-person one, and they unanimously were interested in this being an in-person event. So in recognition of that demand from both the parents and from the schools, we are holding this as an in-person event Sunday, May 15th at 1 p.m. in the downtown library. And we'll have 15 local preschools there, so you can shop for a preschool. Then, go on to the next slide. In May 22nd, we have our 2022 book release reception. We've got a bunch of books sort of saved up for this one because there have been a number of these that we postponed. But this will be the first big Fifth Avenue Press book release reception. 10 new books from local authors and illustrators. We have all kinds of stuff. There's something for everyone. There's picture books, there's YA, adult fiction, memoir, poetry, art, and there's also an anthology by a bunch of local writers. One of my favorite books that's in this release is it's a memoir by a local engineer, and he decided not to have it printed because he just wanted to write it and have it in the library's collection. So it won't be for sale because he elected not to have it printed. But it's his experience working in Ann Arbor, and he worked on some of the Apollo stuff that was here in Ann Arbor, and he had some really interesting stories about everything that went wrong when they were trying to test the Apollo surface experiments in a building on North Campus. So I thought that was very cool. I think I might, the team is always saying this is Eli's favorite book about this. So, all right, next up, AAPI Heritage Month, Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month is coming up here in May. That will be starting with a special event we'll talk about in just a minute. Each day we'll have a quote that's released on video. We've been using that model for the past few Heritage Month events, and it's very effective, and those videos are, people really like them and they click through to them, and it's been working very well. But we'll also have both in-person and pre-recorded events. And on the next slide, you can see, and it all starts with a May 1st event with our partners MI-TAI, which is the Michigan Taiwanese American Institute. They told us this week that there was an article in the World Journal of the Midwest area, which is a Chinese language newspaper that's published in the Midwest, promoting this May 1st event that we're having. And we just found out today that the Taipei Cultural Institute in New York City will be sharing this event with their audience as well. And so that will involve a lion dance, it will have a yo-yo performance, and they are donating a set of tiger prints to the library's circulating collection. So we're very excited about that. We've been working with them for a long time. Thanks to Teresa and all of her team for bringing this to us. All right, and moving on to the next slide. So it is time to suggest a title for the 2023 Washtenaw Read. Anyone can get involved in that at aadl.org/Washtenaw Reads. And there's a great, aadl.org or washtenawreads.com will both get you there. And this is the time to make suggestions and see what we can do with that. Moving on to the next slide, just as a sneak preview of our May service update, at some point in May, we're waiting for some technical development projects to finish up. So we don't have a firm date for this, but we have a number of things that we're going to sort of bundle up together. One is a meeting room self-booking available at all locations. That already started. That started a month ago, but we have not really started promoting it yet. So this will be our chance to start promoting it. We find when we bundle up a bunch of different services together and there's something in it for everyone, people are more likely to share it. They're more likely to talk about it with other people. They're more likely to get excited and see what the other things are, even if they're services that they don't necessarily use. One of the big ones will be our tools booking service launching. This is the way that you can get tools for a specific event on a specific date. We've been building a lot of infrastructure to be able to make this as easy as possible. And this will be a great service for people who are looking to plan parties or weddings or events, all that kind of stuff. And this will be a seasonal service as well, because the demand for this really dries up. And so each year it'll start around this time, mid-April, and will run through October. And then at the end of October, we take all the big toys and we put them away in our lovely new warehouse for the winter. And then they return. So the tools booking service is getting close to launching. Also, alongside that, with it being easier to get some of these items, for the past couple of years, almost all the tools have been a month-long checkout, mostly because we didn't have enough room for all of them. So by extending the checkout length, we are better able to shelve what we have. But now that's not so much of a problem anymore, particularly with the number of these items. Now that we have the warehouse, we're less concerned about sort of medium-term storage. So many tools will be getting a shorter checkout period so that they turn over more and reach more people over the course of the summer. So that will be coming soon. We'll also be adding puzzles to the express shelf at branches. That will be a great thing for see them out there at all the different branches. It is a very easy thing to turn around because there's no processing required. It's not really a great fit to do the board games at the branches because there's a lot of specialized processing required that only happens downtown. Whereas the puzzles, if a patron reports that one or more pieces are missing, they are withdrawn, and that's that. So they get to live and visit other people's homes, and so long as they come back intact, they will be able to continue. But the puzzles have been a big success, and we really have not lost that many of them. But it is definitely frustrating enough that when we hear that one piece is missing, the puzzle's withdrawn. As I said, the end of seed sampler season will be coming up pretty soon. We're going to plow through the rest of those orders and close the form once we have a solid idea of how much inventory we're able to get. And this is just a minor thing. We are gradually working on replacing the large tables around the system with smaller tables, particularly at the downtown library. We've got a lot of these big old 4x8. They look like they're oak tables, but they are laminate tables. And they look pretty rough. We've had them for a long time. The big problem is with a 4x8 table in a public library, one person sits at it, and then that's the entire table busied. Because we are past the point in American society where people are going to sit down at a table if there's someone already sitting there. So instead, we are replacing those tables with smaller tables, more like a two-top sort of table, so that there's able to fit more seating, particularly at Westgate. Westgate has a massive demand for workspace, not so much demand for soft seating. So we're actually going to be removing some of the soft seating from Westgate. All of the couches at Westgate are getting reupholstered, all the couches and chairs. Anyone who's been out there lately has seen that that material has not held up. So very few materials that have an outer layer can hold up to the abuse that they take at a public library. So we'll be getting those new tables out downtown and some of them out at Westgate as well. And we are waiting for some more. We're getting exactly the same table that we have at Westgate, just in a smaller size. So it matches all the rest of the furniture. So we'll have some temporary tables out there and then we'll get the real ones as well. Events are really picking up. We've got a lot of things coming up, a lot of things planned in May and getting things planned for the summer, including our longstanding partnership with Top of the Park. We will have our Kids Rock concerts. We'll have a number of annex events, as they call them, in the tent at Top of the Park. We will also be having our Summer Games Spectacular. We'll be returning to Vets Park. So we'll have more information about all of that as we get closer. And also when we mention the May service update, we will talk about the COVID tests that are available free on the desks. We're still waiting to see when we have to reorder them, if we're going to get some. Before we start promoting it, we want to have a better sense of our ability to restock that from the MDHHS program that we're participating in. So we've just started running out at some locations. We're moving them around a little bit, and we'll see if we're able to get more, because we don't want to start promoting it, because once you say that you have them, doesn't matter if you run out, people will be coming for a long time looking for them. So we want to make sure that it's going to be a reliable supply before we start promoting it. In the meantime, they've been going out. We just have them sitting on the desks, and people have been taking them. They've been getting out into the community. All right, now moving on to social media comments. So here's a great photo from Carrie Reingans, who's running for state rep. My husband sent me these pics of our daughters from the AADL Westgate branch this morning. She was so excited to use her brand new library card all by herself. He said he turned around and couldn't find her, common library experience. But then he was impressed that she knew how to do it by herself. And there she is, checking out her materials at the library. Moving on to the next slide. So here's a comment from Matt Hampel, longtime tech townie. He was actually the creator of Arbor Wiki when he was a student at Community. And he says, OMG, the AADL Wi-Fi printing is so easy. You can just walk in, connect to the Wi-Fi on your phone, and the printers show right up. No login or anything, it just works if you're on a Mac. It works really well on Mac, not quite as well on a PC. That's just sort of a matter of the standards available. But if you're a Mac user, boy, does it work really well. Also works very well from iPhone. It's very easy to print to our printers from iPhone or iOS, and pretty well from Android. It's just sort of Windows where printing gets, there be dragons. All right, moving on. So here's a Google review, and I'm just going to take a minute and read this into the record. A diverse and expansive collection of media and tools are available here. Its curators and caretakers are genuine professionals. Safety and cleanliness are paramount concerns of the staff. Their positive results and response speak for themselves. This library functions as a key community space, providing clean public bathrooms, clean water, open spaces, inexpensive vending options, and a newly installed free Narcan vending machine. Their Wi-Fi is awesome too. I've included a blisteringly fast test result for it taken in a non-optimal location. It is an incredible privilege to be able to use this fascinating institution and its resources. There's something for everyone here. And boy, do we love to hear that. Every bit of it. It's like, yeah, right into our veins, please. Okay. Desk and contact us comments. Patrons said they love the rotating art exhibits at the Malletts Creek branch. So these are all comments that have come across the desk. I just want to say thank you and how much I appreciate the ability to be able to print and scan. It's a very nice service. And then here's another one. Patron generously praised the AADL as well as the MCB staff. He said he and his wife sincerely appreciated the contactless vestibule service we offered. They used it extensively throughout the pandemic, and he said it made the entire situation more bearable. We heard that a lot. And before he left, he reiterated that I pass his compliments on to the staff, and here we are passing it along to you. And one more. Patrons have been extremely happy and appreciative of the at-home COVID test kits. One patron exclaimed, I approve of library funds being spent of this, and others echo a similar sentiment. It was explained that the kits were provided through MDHHS. So just passing along the positive feedback from these. And that is the library report. Any questions?
I'm glad you explained the puzzles. I've been wondering how that works.
Yes.
I was pretty sure that someone doesn't count them, but sorry.
There are some libraries where they have a dedicated core of senior citizens who reassemble the puzzles in between each checkout to make sure they're all there. We decided we were comfortable letting the patrons tell us if a piece is missing and then withdrawing them at that point.
And I just want to also say that I remember Matt Hampel when he was a library teen.
Yes.
He would come as a regular, and he was the best then. So
Yeah.
it's awesome that he's still a fan. But yay, very nice report.
I know, it's just fun. It's fun to hear that feedback, so thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, we're moving on to old business. Is Len here?
No, actually, Len has a birthday at his house today,
Oh,
so
happy
I told him I would take care of this.
Okay, so
Because there's not a whole lot to report. Where we're at is at the AIA contract. That's the standard contract that architects and construction agencies use. We've had some modifications made to that, and that is in final review, and we're expecting that to be signed this week by O'Neill. We are finalizing the structural drawings, and we're anticipating that those will be completed in mid-May. The project will become public as far as the trades are concerned with two separate bid packs. There will be one bid pack is the structural steel because that's the one that has the longest lead time. That one will be public by June 1st. And then we'll have a second bid pack including everything else, and that should be public by July 1st. Both of those bid packs, once we get them out to the construction manager, and they have reviewed the bids. We'll be bringing the bids for approval back to the board. And that's the update on the Parkland Plaza project. Any questions? Okay.
Alrighty then, on to new business. First item is a discussion of the proposed 2022-2023 budget from Eli.
Okay. So in your packets, on the page labeled 32 is the budget. There's a narrative on the 2 pages preceding that. One thing to note is that we are proceeding with a 3% merit pool for the staff for next year. There will be 3% merit increases. I'll have some more information about that next month. As Scott said, we are in that moment right now where we are waiting to see what the equalization report says, so we're able to make a projection of how much tax revenue the millage will bring in, and to know how much, if any, Headley rollback will be applied to our millage. So as a reminder, if our tax base grows at a rate faster than inflation, a Headley fraction is applied, which then decreases our maximum millage. While we are likely to have some growth this year in the tax base, because inflation is so high, we are not likely to have a Headley rollback, but it's hard to say for sure. So we were supposed to have that last week, but there was a event that prevented the equalization board from meeting. They had some kind of a threat called in or something like that, and the meeting was canceled. The meeting has been rescheduled for May 5th. So after that meeting, we should be receiving our equalization report, and we'll know where we're at. Our projection here assumes a 2% increase to our revenue, which is fairly conservative. It has been more in the past. It has been less in the past. But I think it's not likely to be substantially off from that. We will find out when that's done. We made some adjustments here to the various revenue lines just based on our experience over the past year to make sure that these are more in line with what we're expecting. And then just to sort of touch on in the expenditure side, we did, to balance this draft of this, Len's original request, because we have the plaza fit out expected in this year, the FF&E, furnitures, fixtures and equipment. Len's original request was 1.7 million for this. We decreased that down to 8 million to make this work at this moment without knowing how much more it would be. Once we know what that number actually is, there's a few other lines here that we're still doing the analysis. I think we might be able to dial in the benefits a little bit more. That's a relatively knowable number because we have already determined what our benefit costs will be for next year. And once we're able to sort of project that for our current numbers of singles and doubles and families and such, we should be able to dial that in and see if there's some room there. Most of the other lines don't have a major change. We did decrease the materials line a little bit this year, but you can see it's very much in line with what the projection is and very much in line with what we've actually spent on that the past several years. So partially it's the nature of the industry changing. There's not quite as many things, particularly with CDs and to a lesser extent with DVDs. But a lot of the most popular things are not being released in formats that we can purchase at all the streaming videos and things like that. So we're confident that 1.6 million, which is what we've spent the past several years, is plenty for the materials budget. So we are restoring the programming budget pretty close to where it was pre-pandemic, so we'll be in a good position to do lots of interesting stuff with that. And those are kind of the highlights. So at the moment, we would like to add more back to capital outlays so that we can put more into plaza furniture as we get through that. That'll depend on two main things: once we know what the actual revenues are, and then sort of nailing down the employee benefits package. This does have the new positions that were requested by all the managers and supervisors. All those are in the budget at this point. So the next time that we bring this to you there will be a special hearing at the May meeting. That's the budget hearing. That's when we will approve the final budget and set the millage rate for next year. So we'll have some more information. We'll be able to dial all that in and have a very good projection of where we're at and make the adjustments based on the projections from this year. Any questions about the budget proposal? Okay. Well, we will bring that back next month with some refinement. It will go before the Budget and Finance Committee meeting. they have a meeting before the deadline for us to get the notices out for the budget hearing to be properly noticed. So that's coming up next month. And that's it for the proposed budget.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have an item for discussion and action, resolution authorizing additional agents for the library at the Bank of Ann Arbor. Eli?
Okay, so this is the board authorizing the two associate directors, Len Lamori and Shalanya Zobel, to be able to sign sign checks from our main banking account and be able to administer that if needed. Each week when we run the checks, only one signer is required if it's under $2,500. Two signers are required if it's $2,500 or over. Currently, I'm the only signer on staff, so Scott has been coming very graciously every week to help sign those. And then what this does is this puts us in a position where we will have 3 signers in the building. So unless 2 of us are unavailable, we shouldn't generally need the treasurer, whoever that is, to come and sign checks on a weekly basis. We are hoping, after we get our new accounting system in place, to start revisiting ACH and other sorts of methods to get away from a check-based workflow. But with our current system and with the current controls we have in place, the paper checks are really the best way to go, and this is the one downside of it. So this would just authorize it would authorize the Bank of Ann Arbor to allow Len and Shalanya to be official signers on the account, and that will give us all we need to be able to do all of our routine banking. This does not include the trust accounts where our non-operating funds are stored. There's the trust account at Bank of Ann Arbor, and there's the other trust account at Old National. I was never on those when I was the deputy director. It was just Josie, and because we generally never touch it. So it's not something that has any sort of routine actions required. So this is just for our retail banking, not for the trusts. Any questions?
I asked this in Finance Committee, but before it was you and Josie, so most of the time there didn't have to be a board member signing.
Correct.
checks. So this is just sort of getting us back to that.
Yes, that's right. I think that I can think of one time where we had, or Josie was on vacation for a couple of weeks and we had a treasurer come in once.
Yeah, I was gonna say hats off to Scott, because I was treasurer for 2 years, and I think I was on call a couple of times, but I never had to come in. So, good job.
Yeah, let's let Scott off the hook here.
I do enjoy seeing you all, but
Likewise.
Any other discussion on this item?
Should we read it?
Yeah, let's do it. You wanna do it?
Sure.
All right.
The board resolves that the board hereby designates the following individuals as duly authorized agents for the Ann Arbor District Library and gives these individuals the authority to direct the Bank of Ann Arbor via emails, telephone conversations, in writing, or any other form necessary regarding deposits, transfers, withdrawals from any accounts held at the Bank of Ann Arbor, and to conduct any other business as deemed necessary, and further grants Bank of Ann Arbor agent the authority to follow without question the direction of the following named individuals. Len Lamori, Associate Director. Oh, that's like worse. Am I not close enough to it?
Maybe point it at your mouth a little bit. There you go.
I'll just like
That's
swallow
better.
the whole thing up. That's much better. And Shalanya Zobel, Associate Director. That the elected Ann Arbor District Library Board Secretary has the authority to certify this resolution. That all resolutions and parts of resolutions that conflict with the provisions of this resolution are rescinded.
And you do need a motion in a second before taking the vote.
Oh, okay. Then I need a motion for this resolution.
So moved.
Seconded.
Excellent. And now we do the roll call vote? Great. Yes.
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 All right, excellent. Motion passes. Next, we have another item of discussion, the space use agreement with the Friends of the Library. Eli.
Okay, so next in your packet, beginning on the page marked 34, is a revised space use agreement. This is the document that governs the Friends of the Library's use of the space inside the library. In your ephemera file, you have a red line version of this if you want to see exactly what has changed. So The basic parts of this are that we are offering the Friends space in the new warehouse. It is a equivalent amount of space to what they currently have in the basement as far as square footage. Plus, we have offered to handle 20 pallets of storage for them. Most of their space downstairs is storage space. So this really gives them a lot more room to work, even though the footprint is the same, because they will be able to store up to 20 pallets outside of their space. It also will give them a lockable office, which they have not had an office with walls for a very long time. And this also does include the Friends bookshop being relocated into the warehouse as well, with sale hours to be determined later. The Friends leadership, we've spoken with them about this. They're very positive about the opportunities. It solves a lot of problems for them, particularly some of the storage and logistics issues that just come with inherently with the downtown library. And the only other sort of major change here is that the previous agreement said that they were responsible for providing internet and phone line. It's to the point now where it is much harder for us to allow them to have their own internet and phone line than it is for us to just provide them with internet and a phone line. So we will be providing that as part of that. And then there's also some details in here about exactly how much promotion we will provide. We've not had that in the agreement before. And basically offering them that we'll mention their things, we'll mention whatever message they want to have, not more than once a week on our social media and not more than once a month in print. So that gives us plenty of opportunity to get their messages out and for that to be knowable and expected by them. This is a one-year agreement. This is always a one-year agreement. So this is the first reading. If you have any feedback, you can give it to us today and we can revise this. Then I will take it to the Friends Board and get any feedback from them with the goal of at the May regular meeting, you will approve the final document after having had their feedback, and then they will sign it after you all have approved it. So that's the way the process works, and it lasts for 1 year. Because of the transition, you'll see that it basically refers to their premises will become the space out of the warehouse when we move them out there. And we will handle moving. We will handle moving their stuff around the system, just as we always do. There won't be any costs to them associated with doing this, but it does get them out to a much better space, and we just don't know when that will be, because it's dependent on construction timelines. We obviously don't want to move them out there when there's a lot of saw cutting and other sorts of things going on. So any questions about the content of the agreement or intent of the agreement?
Yeah, we talked about this a bit in the executive committee meeting, as I discussed, and I think we were all excited just about what this enables them in terms of logistics and loading and everything that's involved with accepting donations. So I think it's really good.
Yeah, I did the walkthrough a few months ago, and I really agree. The people who were there from the board seemed pleased, and plus Rachel was there from their staff, and you know, if you think about the logistics involved in drop-off at the moment, it'll be just so much simpler for people.
Great. Any other discussion? Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Yep. All right, next I guess we have to vote on having a closed session at the May 23rd meeting for a discussion of real estate and labor negotiations. So on this, we just vote, right?
I need to move a motion.
Okay, I need a motion.
So moved.
Seconded.
Excellent. Any discussion? Okay, I think we can have a roll call vote. Yes.
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 All right. Motion passes. Are we setting the time, or is that already?
No, we will determine that. We will be back in touch. Yeah,
All right.
I assume it will be 6 o'clock.
Okay. All right, any citizens' comments?
I have not received any either online.
All right, I think that means we're adjourned. Thanks so
Dharma,
much.
fastest meeting ever.
Thanks for helping me get through it. It was a little bumpy.
Good job, Dharma.
Yes, very good.
Thank you.